Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today or watching. My name is Cole Gibson. Friends and colleagues know me as Perch Perkins. That is my in-game name. That's the name I use in shoutcasting. And for those who don't know, and even for those who do know, kind of a reminder, I a little bit about myself. I host a esports show for my student-run television station called PrimeTime eSports. It was a big passion of mine. Started earlier this year, and we actually finished our fourth episode before we went on Christmas break, and the entire school shut down. So can't really do anything about that. But I also have done a little bit of podcasting. I also coach for the Georgia State University League of Legends team. So that's another kind of thing I can add to my resume. And I also have a little bit of shoutcasting experience. Not a little bit, but not as much as I can go out and say, "Hey, I'm a big name shoutcaster" or anything like that. But today I'm making this video to discuss the recent deal that Riot made with Major League Baseball Advanced Media (MLBAM) and their in the independent company that they basically own still, BAMTech. Because when I first read the deal, I felt that it was a good step in the right direction. I felt like Riot was securing their future in the digital media space, trying to diversify the way they bring the game to fans, which is something they're kind of desperately needing. The Worlds this year was pretty amazing, but if it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be, then I doubt they would have gotten the viewership they usually do. Actually, people almost didn't tune in because they thought it was going to be once TSM got knocked out in groups, they thought it was going to be another like Korean sweep. No real competition to the last stage, and we got some surprises in Albus Nox Luna and some other teams that kind of showed out. But I was reading over the original article, the original release made by Riot, and then also the story written by the Score Esports, and there's some language in there that kind of I won't say troubled, but it was a growing concern for me. I do also have an investigative journalism background. I am a journalism major. And so when you read articles like this, you kind of look a little bit deeper into the language. And there are some things that kind of made me hesitate about this deal. So today, what I'm going to be doing is going through both the articles as well as some background history on BAMTech and MLB Advanced Media, and then kind of sharing my thoughts on the language that Riot used and what this means for the future for fans, for teams, things like that. So, first off, we are going to go to the original Riot article. Oop, oop, oop. Hold on, let me fix that real quick. I never set the display capture, did I? There we go. All right, there we go. It's fixed. Yeah, so we'll stay. Yep, it will stay. So let me minimize myself as well so you can see the full article. And I'll even zoom in for you guys. Let's see, zoom in a bit. There we go. So in the article, it says, "Today we are thrilled to announce Riot Games and BAMTech have entered into a first of its kind long-term commercialization partnership to deliver professional League of Legends esports content in regions around the world." And really, when you write things like this, especially in like press releases like this, because let's be honest, this is really just one big press release by Riot, the first sentence is always the most important sentence in each paragraph to kind of get through the story. So we'll only read that. We're not going to go too in depth unless there's a quote that I see that we need to stop. But the first thing we're going to stop at is BAMTech. Now, some people might say, what is BAMTech? And so I found an article, or not an article, Wikipedia actually tells you that BAMTech is basically it's MLBAM's spinoff of their streaming technology division. They basically made an independent company, something that businesses do all the time, probably to dodge some sort of tax, something or other, to make extra money. But basically, all they do is kind of provide digital services for like they manage Watch ESPN, they manage the PGA Tour Live, Yes Network, if you know what that is, MLB.com, I believe they also manage. So they're basically like a technology giant that helps get branding and marketing and technology of certain entities on track. And so that's kind of what Riot hired them for. and that's the wrong article. And if you read the thing, it says first of its kind, long-term commercialization partnership. Now that's really specific language, and it's really important. Like commercialization, people might think, oh, they're just going to be running, the new app or how the stream works, but no, this is so what commercialization is basically any effort. It's a process, any effort to introduce a product to a new generalized populace, like a new generalized fan base, to a new market. So what Riot has done is kind of hired BAMTech to run the gamut as far as trying to not only improve what they're doing for the fan base they have right now, but also trying to reach out to people that necessarily aren't fans of competitive League of Legends, and even those that probably have never even heard of League of Legends. They've hired BAMTech to kind of lead that charge, which actually is very impressive for Riot because they're not usually known for just letting someone else take the reins for them. Excuse me, as far as running things go, and you can see that with the way they've had trouble with the owners and and even giving out sponsorships and partnerships because they're not really, almost like every other gamer out there, you don't really want to share your game with everybody. It's kind of like I won't say selfish because you don't know who you're getting in business with, but they were trying to keep it pure, and I admire them for that. But this was a step that was a long time coming. This most logical businesses would have had this step done a lot sooner than they did, but at least they're getting it done. So on to the next quote, or not quote. Yeah, this is a game changer for our sport. No, actually, let's back up. They say we will be working closely with BAMTech to grow revenue in our sport through various means, including sponsorship and advertising. And the various means part is some of the generalized language I was talking about. They don't want to get into too many specifics, but if you look into BAMTech's, into what they do, and even if you look into what MLB Advanced Media says they do, a business and content strategy, UX and product design, basically how your websites look and how your web apps work and look, social media marketing, ticketing for, if Riot ever moves in that step of localization like Overwatch League is, or even just for the events they already run. And then sponsorship and advertising, which they say their sponsorship team collaborates with the partners to drive advertising revenue. So basically, expect to see a lot more ads with games, especially a lot more ads, and maybe even some sponsorship labels around the analyst desk or around the stage and stuff. But my big concern with this is kind of what sort of sponsorship and advertising are we looking at here? Is it going to be, are they going to make teams wear the sponsors or the ads on their jerseys like they do in soccer and they're moving toward in basketball? How far will they go with this step? And it's really interesting because they're already having problems with the teams as far as, the ownership relationship between the team owners and Riot Games. And another detail that I'll get into later is, how involved are the teams in this process? Will they be forced to do some things that they might not even get paid for except through revenue sharing, that they won't get extra money for, like wearing sponsors on their jerseys or, having sponsors on the stage, or even have to make commercials for sponsors and things like that, like the NBA sometimes has players do. But the NBA players, in contrast, also get paid independent contracts for the money they make in commercials, as well as the NBA, when they do collaborate on commercials, get paid for. Let's move on. Another quote that they have that I thought need to be highlighted in this press release was, as we've said in the past, the true economic sustainability is a critical means to ensuring a sport that lasts, and this represents a major step towards that goal. So basically, what Riot did here, in subtle terms, is they kind of acknowledged that the way they've been doing things hasn't been working. They've kind of acknowledged that, hey, um, the way we've been approaching our economics and our sustainability as a sport hasn't been working. And so we brought in these guys to help us with this major step, because everyone that loves this game, I think, wants it to be like a 10-year thing, or a toy, or however long it can go, like a traditional sport, like, be around for. And games, it's hard for them to last forever. Even a MOBA that can evolve like Riot can, it's going to be extremely difficult to make the gameplay refreshing and fun and new 20 years down the road that fans can sink their teeth into. And I think Riot realizes this, that the only way they're going to have that sort of sustainability is through the competitive scene. Because before, Riot wasn't really willing to invest too much money into the competitive scene. It's like they gave enough to give the fans a good experience, but not too much that you always knew that they loved they wanted people to love the casual side of League of Legends more than the competitive side. They want, because that's where they drive all their revenue from, is the casual side, where people buy skins. There's only so many championship skins out there. You buy the normal skins and you buy the new champions and you get involved in the casual side of the gameplay. But I think they're starting to realize that this isn't enough to drive the market and keep their game sustainable. So they're really starting to try and invest into the competitive side of the game. And it's a really smart move. Like, they had to do this eventually. Like, uh, especially after Mark Merrill kind of screwed the pooch, and team owners came out and were free to say that, hey, we're barely making any profit off this. Eventually, we're gonna have to drop our teams because we're barely breaking even. Uh, they had to make a step toward, economic sustainability, as I say, which basically means making sure this thing can last and we don't collapse under the weight of the monster that we've already made. Not just saying it's a bad monster, but it is a monster. And then the final quote from this article is, because everything else is kind of, just adding some fluff to the article, making it sound good, a leading technology services and video streaming company formed by Major League Baseball, like, giving a little bit of background, but at the same time, just kind of fluffing up the article, the press release, trying to get people hyped for it. But the last thing I want to highlight, and I won't even talk about too much, because it kind of plays a big part in the next article that we're going to look at, is that they say explicitly that in one sentence, like, not fans will always be the foundation for strong and successful sports. And while this is true overall in any sport, like, they're trying to give the fans of League of Legends, the LCS, a reassurance that, hey, what we're doing isn't going to change anything that you love about watching the LCS and watching competitive League of Legends. That's what they're trying to do, and I'll go on a rant about that a little bit later in this next article. But I just thought it interesting that they kind of capped it off with basically a thank you to the fans and saying, "Hey, we got you guys' back. We're gonna try and make everything a strong foundation for you to have a good time watching the esport, or the sport, I guess they can call it, that we all love." So let's move on to the second article by the Score Esports. Josh Berry. Got to give my shout outs, because otherwise I might get sued or something. I don't know. Who knows? Journalism is a fickle thing. So, and they go into a little bit more detail of what the press release didn't tell us, which is something that I really enjoy about the Score Esports, because in next week's video that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about CSGO and the PEA, and they do the same thing here, there, that they do here. So that's something I really enjoy about the Score Esports, is just the depth and the value of a lot of their articles. But let's get into it. They say Major League Baseball Advanced Media's MLBAM BAMTech has inked a deal for exclusive rights to stream and monetize League of Legends matches. And this was reported on the Wall Street Journal as well. And the thing you want to look at, the most here, give me a second, is that, what is it? Yeah, first of all, exclusive rights. So, like, this is like, as far as streaming goes, like, There's no other. You won't. Don't expect to see anybody else come into the game because however long this deal has been inked, uh, this is the only one. It's inked through 2023. So don't expect any other players in the streaming game, anyways. But the big words there is stream and monetize League of Legends matches. Um, and that's kind of the big question here: is how will they monetize it? And I kind of went over it in the last article. Is are they going to add we all know they're probably going to add more ads. In fact, you saw it at Worlds where they kind of started to add more ads than usual. I said add 4 times. They started to add more ads than usual. You saw like 4 or 5, and they weren't even like the usual Twitch ads that always run because they're partners with Twitch. It was like League of Legends independent sponsors. Like I think they had one for Acer and stuff like that. So expect to see a lot more of those. You know, everyone's gonna be upset, more ads, but you'll get over it. If they understand, they know as businessmen that if you really want to watch, you're gonna sit through the ads, even if you have to complain and watch the games. So that's a done deal. But how else will they monetize this? Will there be and I'll talk about the app later. But as far as streaming regularly, like are they going to do something like Twitch Prime and start doing something like that where now you have to excuse me, do certain things to get certain features. Like I like the features that they had on their website when they optimized it to where you could look at individual players creep score and individual players itemization and rune pages and stuff like that, and kind of keep track of the statistics of the game while you're watching the game. I'm a big stats guy. If you watch my show or follow me on anything else I've done, uh, I'm a big stats dude. I love following the statistics of sports, esports. When I played baseball, I was the main guy that kept the book to keep the stats for the players. That's just what I like to do because it tells more of the story than just watching the game. Because individual performance is one thing, but statistics wise, they can be a whole different spectrum. It can kind of fill in the gaps. But will that be closed off to us now because they gotta monetize it? We'll have to pay for that. I don't want to have to pay for that. I'd rather just watch the VOD results or be a bonobo and just get my updates online. I can survive. There are some fans out there that can't, but I can. If it comes down to money, I can survive without watching it. Will they monetize VODs? Like I know that's a stretch, but I mean, if MLB AM feels like by allowing VODs to be posted on the LOL eSports site, and if they feel like that's a free pass for people to just skip the streams and watch the VODs, like will they monetize VODs? Like to watch this, almost like YouTube when you have to watch an old movie. To watch this, you gotta rent it out for or buy it for $5 or something like that. So, and then like I said earlier, will they make the teams wear sponsors stuff? Will they force? I mean, because TSM already wears Geico and Logitech, but there are certain areas where you can't put ads on your jerseys because Riot was being Riot. But now that that's kind of out of the door, will they force teams to wear all these ads that, first of all, they're not even really partners with the people they're adding the ads to. Second of all, they don't even know if they do get money, how much money they're getting from this. I mean, money is money. You want it, but you want it at a good deal that benefits you and the partner and Riot Games at the same time. And already just having 2 partners is hard, but having the trifecta of partners is extremely difficult, especially in a industry like esports where the psyche of people are different than traditional sports. Things are done differently, and it's almost like trust levels have to be built to an extreme, whereas like in traditional sports, to some degree, it's like you're making money, I'm making money, let's make this a mutual benefit. Okay, let's go. Whereas in esports, it's like, no, I have to trust you that you won't, I guess, backstab me or do something shady or do something businessman like to me in the future. So it's a whole spectrum that Riot kind of tried to. They didn't really mention it in the press release, but the Score Esports Josh Berry kind of weaned it out of the report, and probably the Wall Street Journal probably says the same thing. The next quote, it says a minimum of $300 million to Riot Games for the rights to broadcast League of Legends competitions through 2023. And that's another red flag that I threw up like a soccer ref was it went from being just matches, just League of Legends matches. Like, and when they say matches, when you hear matches, you think of like LCS and stuff, not tournaments, not Riot run tournaments and global competitions. But then it expands to competitions through 2023, which means that okay, so how this affect worlds and playoffs and MSI, things like that. How this affects other Riot run tournaments and whether they get monetized now, and how does this affect my viewer quality for the big tournaments? Like, will I have to pay for certain features to watch Worlds? Which, I mean, I guess it's not that big of a deal. It just depends on what it is that they're going to monetize. Again, will certain primetime matches in group stages or bracket stages be blacked out like they do in traditional sports? Like where you're okay, you have to pay to watch this primetime matchup between EDG and TSM because they might change it. They could possibly change it to how they do it in the NFL or NBA or even college sports, where you have several different, especially like if you watch college basketball. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. If you watch college basketball, right? There is the bracket as the bracket goes on, starts 64, then 32, and moves on down. But there are several games happening at the same time. You can watch any of them that you want, but what if MLB AM decides, okay, for group stages, you can watch these certain games, but then you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay for EDG versus TSM because that's a primetime matchup. That's gonna bring in a lot of money because it's TSM, one of the most popular esports brands in the world, versus EDG, one of the strongest Chinese teams in the world, or Chinese teams in their region. You're gonna have to pay for that match, $5, $10, and are you willing to pay for it? Because there's someone out there that is, but I think that in a sense is wrong. I feel like, and I never liked. I'm glad they stopped doing it in traditional sports. They stopped blacking out games because it was wrong. We already devote our time and a lot of us our merchant or our money to like buying merchandise to support our teams and also buying in-game stuff from Riot, skins and things like that, and also contributing to the prize pool as they started to do a prize pool based on contributions now. We shouldn't have to pay for this, but MLBAM, while partnered with Riot, is a separate entity with Riot, so they can make whatever skins they want to. Now I'll get to a little bit of the power aspect of this, kind of to tie that in as we move on down through the quotes. But that just kind of disturbed me when they said they went from matches to where you're thinking, okay, maybe LCS matches, and then playoffs maybe too. Oh, so now they're gonna control every aspect, like competitions through 2023, like everything League of Legends except for maybe IEMs that no one really watches because IEM runs a terrible tournament, will be affected through 2023. And no real hate on IEM, or ESL for that matter, but they don't really run good tournaments. Like, let's be honest, they don't. Um, but that's another story for another day. That's another discussion. The next quote: BAMTech will handle distribution of LOL streaming content on Twitch. Riot may charge app users for premium content in the future. So they made this big, great idea, which is something that needs to happen again, which is a streaming app for LOL esports, because Twitch was good, but Twitch didn't give you all the features that streaming on the LOL esports website gave you at the same time, where you could watch all the stats and stuff like that. Now, the big thing about this is that it contradicts the statement made by Jared Kennedy in his article that, first of all, that says that we believe in making content freely available, and it will continue to be freely available into the future. We have no plans to change that. I don't get it. Right. I mean, and I know this is speculation because it's just a report, so but usually, uh, speculations aren't too far off, especially if you've done your homework on these speculations. It is perfectly logical that Riot would start to charge premium content like other mobile apps for traditional sports do, like MLB.com and Watch ESPN do, where they charge you extra when you charge people money, almost like in-app purchases for other premium content, like watching certain matchups through your app, or getting the stat lineups for a certain team through your application, or buying a season pass so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Things like that. And I think that for Riot's co-head of esports and head of merchandising, Jared Kennedy, to say this is kind of invalid, because another thing of this power concept is that basically, because there's another quote that says BAMTech will handle sponsorship and advertising, like said in the press release, deals intended to generate revenue. Earnings past 300 million shared will go between Riot and BAMTech. And there's some more filler in that, but basically what it sounds like is that Riot basically handed off most, if not all, the power to MLB, AM, and BAMTech, and said, hey, as long as you guys give us our cut of the money, if it goes over $300 million, the profits, which they wouldn't say a minimum of $300 million if they didn't think it was going to go over $300 million. Let's be honest. No one inks a deal with a contract that says, oh, if it goes below $300 million, then you can keep all the money. But if not, unless they truly believe that sales will go over 300 million, and anyone that tells you different is trying to sell you something. So the fact that he would say this when you really have no control over if that's going to happen or not kind of makes his statement invalid. So I'd say expect that. It's kind of, why wouldn't you expect that? That's a big thing in mobile apps, especially streaming apps right now for a lot of major sports, is, yeah, we give you the free stuff, but the free stuff isn't the best stuff, so you gotta pay a little bit extra so you can get the best games or the best stats or the best features of this app. And especially when Riot handed over basically all their power and said, hey, as long as we have a voice in the final say, and as long as we get paid our cut, go do what you need to do to earn us this money and fix our economic sustainability. I would just completely disregard Jared Kennedy's statement, because he might, co-head of esports and head of merchandising, but remember Monte Cristo said that, like, when he first talked to the sales department of Riot Games, they only had one guy, and by the sounds of it, esports and the head of esports and head of merchandising kind of sounds like, especially the merchandising part, kind of sounds like the sales department. So especially in an area that Riot is like lacking in talent, first of all, because you have to be talented to do that job. I've done an internship for a marketing agency before, or a marketing-ish agency, and it's not easy. So the lack of talent, the lack of personnel, best believe that we will see, if when the app is made, you will probably see premium content come at a price for it. Don't delude yourself with that notion. Okay, so we're getting to the end of this, and they said there will be no changes coming to the existing viewer experience for 2017. So you won't have to worry about this till 2018. So don't freak out yet, but just keep your eyes open. And they also said, and this is the biggest part about this that disturbs me as a whole, is the fact that Riot said, while teams and players are not expected to be cut into the deal directly, not Riot, but the article says, but the articles, because let me kind of sidetrack for you and give you a little bit of a rundown of this. There's no way that Josh Burry or the Score Esports kind of got all this information just by snooping around. Yes, some of this can be done with research and other papers writing stuff about it and things like that, like the Wall Street Journal, and it says the LA Times. But let's be honest, organizations announce these type of things with a press release. Not only the press release to put on their site like Riot Games did, but also a press release that they send out to every single major media outlet in their field. Excuse me again. In their field. which means that the LA Times got a press release. The Wall Street Journal got a press release because, Riot's trying to draw in more sponsors and investors. So investors and sponsors read the Wall Street Journal. They want to, know about these things. They sent a press release to the Score Esports because the Score Esports is one of the major esports news outlets on the market right now. Yahoo Esports is kind of growing, but they're not at anywhere near the size and clout of the Score Esports. So they got a press release for this. So a lot of these quotes that they're reading out of are either coming from the mouth of a Riot employee, from an article from like the Wall Street Journal or LA Times, or maybe an interview that they did online through Skype, or it's coming for the press release. So it concerns me when it says that, when the article says that while teams and players are not expected to be cut into the deal directly, the revenue generated could affect future revenue sharing with organizations. So Riot, here you go, taking one step forward, two steps back, because you did all this deal making without at least talking to the teams first about it and getting their input and making them feel included, which is something that they want. Like, yes, they want more revenue from Riot, for their teams to make things profitable for them, but what they really want also is a voice in the decision making that Riot makes. A voice in whether we're going to go from relegation to franchising. A voice in, in competitive ruling and appeals. A voice in basically the processes that Riot does, which is something that every other traditional sports league does. The MLB, every single traditional sports organization has a board of directors that are basically the team owners. The board of directors are basically the team owners who come together and make decisions for the good of the league. Like the NFL, and then they usually have a Roger Goodell, somebody to kind of be like the judge. They're a neutral party, or they say they're neutral, that kind of sort of has the final. They're almost like the president, or like the Supreme Court, the president, where once the bill is made or the new plan is made, they have the final yay or nay. And usually they're influenced by other voices, but it comes down to them, to Roger Goodell, to Adam Silver, or whatever his name is. I think it's Adam Silver. I think Stein is the head of the MLB. Commissioners. There we go. Commissioners. So every organization has this, where it's like a board of directors made of the team owners, and then the commissioner that basically gives the final word on whether we're going to do this or not. But usually the commissioner has the voice of 5 or 6 owners in his ear at the same time, convincing them to do this, and he makes the sound decision on it. And then that's it. It's over. It's done. Riot doesn't have that. It's just, hey, we're going to make a decision. You got to deal with it. Sorry. Our bad. Well, no, you're bad. And that's it. And teams have been frustrated with it, and that's why we had the letter that came out, the alleged letter that they sent to Riot, or at least a draft of the letter, while you had teams threatening to leave because they said, hey, we're not making any money, and we don't have a voice in the way things work around here, and there are other esports that we can basically make a profit off of we don't need you anymore, basically. When it first started, they kind of needed them because League of Legends and Riot was the only big esports name in town. Now CSGO is growing. Overwatch is like a rocket. They're just climbing extremely fast. It's been really impressive and exciting to see their growth. Dota for a long time has had a larger prize pool, but even as structural wise go, they're growing as well. So there are other alternatives now than League of Legends, and that's what they've been threatening them with. And here Riot goes again, making another decision without the team owner's consent. Like, oh yeah, we basically did this. They're not going to be cut into the deal directly. Oh, but, they could be affected by revenue sharing. It's going to factor in. But then the question is, how much money is going to come through the revenue sharing? Because that's another part of another contract that they have to negotiate about. Okay, so you're doing all of this with MLBAM. How much is our team's going to get from it? There's 10 teams in the league at one time. Each team has to get some percentage of a cut. How are we going to do this? And you didn't even talk to us about it. You just said, oh, it could affect. It could. That's another big word, is it could affect future revenue sharing. We don't even know if it is. which if I'm a team owner is frustrating because not only has Riot once again gone over our heads to do this deal, but then once you read the deeper language of the entire thing, it's basically like y'all aren't invited to the table. And you might get money out of this, but we don't know yet. I mean, it's completely plausible. I mean, we're projected to earn over $300 million on whatever ventures we do. But who knows how much of that money the teams are going to see. And in the business world, this it happens all the time, you know. Uh, but the thing is that, and Monty's got a lot of people have talked about it, is that Riot runs their organization like an overlord, where where what I say goes. They're a dictator. They don't run it like a business where it's outside of attracting new investors. They don't run it like a business where it's like, okay, everyone's involved to a certain degree, just not that they have to be, but just to make them happy. And I don't run a business, so I'm not too skilled, but I mean, my dad has been involved in running multiple businesses. I've had a sideline seat to to a lot of the stuff that's gone on and stuff like that. So I don't know why she did that, but I've had a sideline to a lot of things that have gone on. So I know a little bit about the business world, and that's not how you run a business. Is basically you leave your partners, what's supposed to be your partners, out of the process. That's not something you do. It's kind of a slap in the face and disrespectful. Um, and eventually, Riot's gonna realize this even deeper than they are now, because let's be honest, the only reason Riot included the teams past what they did earlier was because Mark Merrill messed up and went on Reddit and opened his big mouth, and then everyone saw how dumb he sounded and how wrong Riot was running things, and Riot Games had to change, otherwise they're going to lose their fan base and owners as well because of Mark Merrill. That's the only reason, though. It wasn't out of the goodness of their hearts. They didn't like suddenly have an epiphany and say, "Hey, we've been doing this all wrong. We need to add these guys into the process." No. So it's going to be an uphill battle for teams going into the future trying to get involved in this. And this was my biggest problem with this deal, was that teams weren't involved. Again, another flaw in the Riot system. Just, we're going to leave people out. And that's not how things work. And if Riot continues to do that again and again, people will always look at your failures more than they look at your successes if you're a big company. Look at Apple. Steve Jobs made all the iPhone, all this stuff. As soon as he died and Apple started making bad products, their stock plunged for a minute because people were like, okay, this is bad. Never mind, the fact that Apple propelled us into the future. No, Apple's products are now garbage. And they've improved. I use an Android myself, but I can see that iPhones have improved. But I mean, there's that. People just look at the negative first. It's the biggest thing that comes to their mind are your failures. And if Riot keeps doing this, and especially if teams keep speaking out about it, and failures continue to happen, League of Legends won't be around for a while. League of Legends won't be around after a while. All that sustainability, economic sustainability they talked about, will be effectively wiped out by poor decisions made by people in high chairs. So, but what can you do? I personally just wanted to share my thoughts on this deal and get into the language of these articles to kind of glean and pull out more of what I thought was there for your convenience. So, yep, once again, my name is Cole Gibson. You can call me Perch Perkins, though. I think that's how I'll address myself from now on because, like Slim Shady. Don't quote me on that. A lot of you guys know who Slim Shady is, I'm sure. But they don't want Shady. What is it? They don't want Marshall. He's chopped liver. Whatever. But yep, this is Perch Perkins. Next week, I will be talking about the PEA. Article came out recently that said that they will be banning their players and teams from competing in ESL events. I don't know what ESL stands for, but ESL, basically you can't compete in the ESL Pro League, ESL tournaments, things like that. and not too many people, especially not too many players, are happy about it. And it was kind of sprung on us, but I'll talk about that next week. For now, this is wait, let me get this ready. For now, oh my, wow, whew, jeez. But yeah, for now, this is Perch Perkins signing off. I'll talk to you guys next week.